How many people would you cook for if your family asked? 5? 10? What about 45? That's the number that got thrown at me one cold November evening, as if it were the most normal request in the world. My family sat around the living room, casual voices, TV humming in the background. My mom looked at me and said it like she was ordering groceries. "Claire, you'll handle Thanksgiving." Just 45 people. You know how to cook? It sounded like a joke, but nobody laughed. My father nodded as if it had been settled already. My sister smirked, scrolling on her phone. "She works in a restaurant. She's basically a professional," she added. The words stung, not because they were flattering, but because they carried this weight. Like my entire career existed only so I could serve them for free. I remember looking around the room, searching for some flicker of recognition. Did they realize how insane this sounded? 45 plates, 45 chairs, 45 mouths expecting food hot at the same time. That's not a family dinner. That's catering a wedding. And they expected me to do it alone, unpaid and smiling. The TV kept buzzing. The heater clicked on. My mom started talking about turkeys, about side dishes, about pies. My father suggested opening more wine. Everyone had an idea. Nobody asked me what I thought. It was like they had built this whole imaginary menu in their heads and decided I was the staff. I wanted to interrupt, to remind them that I have a job, that my own life doesn't revolve around their holiday. But before I could, my sister leaned forward, scrolling through Instagram photos of glossy turkeys and perfect table settings. "This is the vibe we want," she said, flashing her phone at me like I was the planner. The air smelled like reheated pizza from dinner. The lamp cast a yellow glow over the room, making it feel smaller, tighter. My throat went dry. I sipped water just to buy myself a moment. 45. The number kept echoing in my head like a drumbeat. I wanted to laugh, but instead I felt this heaviness pressing down. Because it wasn't just about one meal. It was about every single time they had asked me to cover for them, to pay for something, to step in when things fell apart. It was about the silent assumption that I was always the one who would show up, who would sacrifice. I remembered being 12, stuck in the kitchen while the others chatted in the yard because someone had to help Mom with the food. I remembered being 20, pulling out my debit card when the electric bill was late. I remembered countless birthdays, parties, gatherings where my name wasn't on the invitation, but on the to-do list. The smell of wine lingered. The low hum of the TV blurred into background static, and their voices kept layering. Potatoes, gravy, desserts, drinks. Nobody noticed the way my shoulders tensed, the way my jaw tightened. Nobody cared. 45 guests, 45 plates, 45 invisible chains. I wanted to say no right there, but the words caught in my chest. Instead, I just nodded slowly, letting them believe I was on board. My sister grinned, already texting friends. "Thanksgiving at our place, Claire's cooking." That's when it hit me. They weren't asking, they were announcing. It was already decided. I was just the labor behind their idea. And maybe you've been there too, sitting in a room where everyone else is planning your effort, your money, your time, without even checking if you agree. It's not just annoying, it's dehumanizing. The night dragged on. My mom pulled out notebooks, making lists. My dad calculated how many bottles of wine he wanted. My sister snapped pictures of centerpieces. All I heard was the word 45, repeating in my head, 45. I sat back in the chair, feeling small in my own family's home. I thought of the kitchen, of the endless chopping, roasting, stirring. I thought of my body aching, my feet burning, while everyone else clinked glasses and toasted. I thought of myself, invisible in the background, while they took pictures of a feast I built alone. And I asked myself quietly, what would it take for me to finally say no? The answer was waiting, even if I didn't know it yet. The next day, it wasn't just a casual remark tossed into the air, it became official. My mother sent a group text with a time and address. Family meeting, 7 p.m. Bring ideas for Thanksgiving. It felt like a business memo, except the business was my labor. I showed up because I knew if I didn't, they'd still plan everything and hand it to me later. The living room had been rearranged. The coffee table was cleared, replaced with my mom's yellow legal pad, 3 pens, and a stack of recipe clippings torn from magazines. My dad sat with his arms folded like a chairman. My sister sprawled on the couch, scrolling as usual. It was surreal. A boardroom, but the walls smelled of candle wax and reheated coffee. The TV was muted, and the only sound was the scratch of my mom's pen as she wrote, "Turkey, Claire, stuffing, Claire. Sweet potatoes, Claire." My name filled the page. Again and again, I raised an eyebrow. So this is just me then? Nobody looked up. My dad cleared his throat. "You're good at it. It makes sense." The words weren't praise. They were dismissal. My skill wasn't mine. It belonged to them. I glanced at my sister. She laughed softly, eyes glued to her phone. "Claire can handle it. She likes cooking." I wanted to ask, did I ever say that? Liking something isn't the same as being forced to do it every holiday, every gathering, every time they wanted to impress guests. But my voice stuck. My mom tapped the pen against the pad. "We'll need 2 turkeys, maybe 3. 45 mouths is a lot. Oh, and vegan options. Your cousin's girlfriend doesn't eat meat." She looked up at me as though I were a caterer she had hired. I leaned back in the chair. The room felt smaller, air heavy with the scent of fabric softener and something frying from the kitchen. My dad took over, talking about wine. He assigned himself the job of picking bottles. My sister suggested playlists and centerpieces, tasks that cost nothing but earned credit. Every time my name hit the page, I felt it like a gavel. Claire cooks, Claire prepares, Claire manages. "Do you hear yourselves?" I finally asked. My voice was low, shaky, but it cut through the chatter. They froze. I repeated, "Do you hear yourselves? 45 guests? That's not dinner. That's an event." My dad frowned. "Don't exaggerate. It's family." "Family doesn't make one person do the work of 10, I said. My sister rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." She shoved her phone toward me, an Instagram feed full of glossy tables and golden turkeys. "This is the vibe. It's one day, Claire. Don't be selfish." That word, selfish. It stung. It always stung. Because that was the shield they used every time they wanted more from me. The legal pad glowed under the lamp, rows of my name marching down the page. I remembered Thanksgivings past. Me standing in the kitchen from dawn, skin flushed from oven heat, hair damp with steam. The laughter from the other room, the clink of glasses, and me invisible. I rubbed my temples. "Do any of you actually hear what you're asking?" My mom sighed dramatically as if I were the problem. "You always know how to ruin the mood." My dad leaned forward, elbows on knees. "This family needs tradition. You're part of that. You should be proud. Proud." Another word used like a chain. My chest tightened. My throat ached. I wanted to shout, but I didn't. I stared at the notepad, the ink marks, the proof of how little they saw me. The silence stretched. Then my sister laughed again, light and cruel. "She'll do it! She always does!" I turned to her. For a second, I saw myself reflected in her phone screen. Tired eyes, clenched jaw. I looked like a ghost in my own life. The meeting rolled on. My mother penciled in pies. My father talked about chairs. My sister debated hashtags for her posts. Every so often, my name scratched across the page again. I said nothing more. I let the words swirl around me like static. I let them plan their perfect party while I sat there, a phantom. But inside, something shifted. Not anger, yet not defiance. Yet, just a seed. A question growing louder with each stroke of the pen. What if I didn't? Because every line on that pad wasn't just a dish. It was another year of being invisible, another holiday sacrificed, another piece of myself given away. The meeting ended with my dad clapping his hands. Good. It's settled. Settled. As if I had agreed. As if my silence was consent. We all stood. My mom tucked the pad into her purse like a contract signed. My sister smirked, humming as she typed on her phone. My father patted my shoulder, heavy and final. I walked out into the night air. Cold wind hit my face. The sky was dark, streetlights buzzing. And I thought, maybe they think this is settled, but maybe I'm finally ready to unsettle it. There's a moment when silence turns into pressure. You can feel it in your chest, like the air itself is demanding an answer. That's exactly what it felt like 2 nights later, sitting in my parents' dining room again, surrounded by lists and voices that weren't mine. They had turned Thanksgiving into a military operation. My mom had recipe cards stacked like files. My dad had his calculator out to estimate wine costs. And my sister, of course, was scrolling through Pinterest for table inspiration. Every path of conversation bent toward me, like rivers draining into a single well. I sat there, hands folded tight, my nails digging into my palm. The smell of coffee and candle wax filled the air. They didn't even look at me as they spoke. I wasn't a participant, I was the resource. And then the pressure broke. No. The word left my mouth so quiet I almost didn't recognize it, but it was enough. 3 heads snapped up. What did you say? My dad asked, his voice sharp, like I'd cursed in church. I said no. Louder this time, clear. The silence that followed was heavier than shouting. My mom blinked, mouth opening and closing. My sister let out a short, mocking laugh. You're joking, she said. I'm not, I replied. My hands were steady now, resting on the table. I'm not cooking for 45 people. I'm not doing it this year. I'm done. The explosion came fast. My dad slammed his hand against the table, silverware rattling. You don't get to just decide that. Family comes first. My mom's eyes filled with tears instantly, her go-to defense. After all we've done for you, Claire, how can you be so ungrateful? Ungrateful, selfish, dramatic. The old words returned, sharp as ever. I swallowed, my chest tight, but the words stayed with me like a shield. No. I've been doing this for years, I said, my voice rising. Every holiday, every gathering. I'm the one stuck in the kitchen while you all celebrate. I've paid bills, I've covered for you, and none of it has ever been enough. I'm not invisible anymore, my sister snorted. Oh, please, you like it. You live for this drama. The anger inside me snapped. Do you even hear yourself? Do you even see me? My voice cracked, raw. I have a job. I have a life. I'm not your free caterer. The room buzzed with tension, like electricity before a storm. My dad leaned forward, face red. If you walk away from this, don't expect this family to stand by you. Don't expect to be welcomed back. I met his eyes. For once, I didn't flinch. Maybe that's the price. The silence stretched again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was clarity. I looked at the notepad in front of me, my name scribbled down on every line, and in one motion, I pushed it across the table, away from me. Find someone else? Because I'm done. My mom gasped like I had struck her. My dad muttered something under his breath, fists clenched. My sister rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might stick, but I didn't care. The word was out, hanging in the air like a bell that couldn't be unrung. No. It echoed in my mind, but not like chains this time, like freedom. I stood, the chair scraping against the floor. My body trembled, but my voice was calm. Good luck with Thanksgiving, and I walked out. Behind me, the shout started. My dad's booming voice, my mom's sobbing accusations, my sister's mocking laughter. the soundtrack of a lifetime, fading as I reached the front door. The cold night hit me again, wind sharp on my skin. But this time it felt different, lighter, cleaner, like the first breath after being underwater too long, number. I whispered it again to myself, smiling for the first time in months, because sometimes one word is enough to change everything. I didn't slam the door that night. I didn't want the drama of it. I just pulled it shut behind me, soft and final, and let the lock click into place like a seal. The cold air stung my cheeks. My breath rose in white clouds as I walked down the steps and into the street. For the first time in years, I felt like I was walking away from a stage where I had played the same role too long. The text started before I even made it to my car. My phone buzzed over and over, the vibration loud in the still night. I didn't look at the screen yet. I knew what they said. Words like selfish, ungrateful, dramatic. Words they always used when I tried to draw a line. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, just listening. The neighborhood was quiet, leaves rustling against the pavement, a dog barking 2 blocks away. My phone kept buzzing, the glow lighting up the passenger seat. Each vibration felt like a hand tugging at me, pulling me back into their orbit. But I didn't turn around. Instead, I drove home and opened my laptop, Miami, flights, hotels. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a second, because booking it meant it was real. It meant I was choosing something for myself instead of waiting for their approval. The next morning, I clicked confirm, Miami. Sunlight instead of shouting. Salt air instead of guilt. I booked the flight for the day before Thanksgiving. That afternoon, I packed a suitcase. Simple things, jeans, a few dresses, a pair of sandals. My passport, even though I didn't need it, just in case I felt like stepping even further away. I slipped my grandmother's photo into the side pocket, the one where she was laughing at a picnic. She always told me, "You don't owe anyone your joy." I never understood it until now. By evening, the group chat had become a battlefield. My sister's messages came fast, sharp like knives. "You're abandoning us? Do you even care? What are we supposed to tell people?" My mom's texts were longer, paragraphs heavy with guilt. "We raised you better than this. Family is sacrifice. If you don't show up, people will talk." My dad's were shorter, more final. "If you walk away, don't bother coming back." I didn't reply. I just read them one by one, then set my phone down. The night before my flight, I walked around my apartment, double-checking locks, watering the plants, making sure everything was in order. It felt ceremonial, like closing one chapter before opening another. When I finally lay in bed, the silence was loud. No voices demanding, no lists being scribbled, just the steady hum of my heater and the faint city noise drifting through the window. My phone buzzed once more on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. The airport smelled like coffee and jet fuel. People rushed past with rolling suitcases, voices echoing in announcements overhead. I carried only my small bag, ticket folded in my jacket pocket. At the gate, I scrolled through my phone one last time. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails piling up. One from my mom crying, one from my dad angry, a string from my sister, half rage, half pleading. I closed the screen. I wasn't their lifeline anymore. When the plane lifted off, I pressed my forehead against the window. The city shrank below, rows of houses and gray rooftops fading into clouds. My chest felt lighter with every mile. Miami hit me with heat as soon as I stepped off the plane. The air smelled like salt and sunscreen, so different from Brooklyn's cold November bite. Palm trees swayed against a sky that seemed too blue to be real. I checked into a small hotel near the beach. The sheets were crisp, the air conditioning hummed. I unpacked slowly, letting each item find its place. Then I walked barefoot onto the sand. The ocean roared steady, waves curling and breaking. Kids laughed in the distance, seagulls cried overhead. I breathed it in, filling my lungs with air that didn't carry accusation. That night, Lying on clean white sheets, I read through the flood of messages one more time. They blurred together, blame, guilt, anger. I didn't answer. For once, silence was my answer. Because walking away wasn't running, it wasn't escape. It was choosing myself over a lifetime of obligations I never agreed to. I turned off the phone, placed it face down, and let the sound of waves outside the balcony replace the noise of my family. For the first time in years, I slept without dreaming of kitchens and dirty dishes. The first morning in Miami was nothing like the mornings back home. I woke up to sunlight pouring through the blinds, so bright it painted the sheets in gold. The hum of the air conditioner mixed with the faint crash of waves outside. For a moment, I just lay there, eyes half closed, listening. No voices arguing, no phones buzzing with demands, just the sound of water and the silence of my own choosing. I stepped out onto the balcony. The air was warm, soft against my skin, carrying salt and sunscreen from the beach below. Palm trees bent in the breeze, leaves rustling like whispers. Down on the street, vendors pushed carts of fruit, their voices cheerful, calling out prices in Spanish and English. It felt alive, and for once, I didn't feel like I was rushing to meet anyone else's timeline. I walked barefoot to the beach. The sand was hot under my feet, soft like flour, sticking between my toes. Kids ran in circles, their laughter rising above the steady rhythm of the ocean. The water sparkled, sunlight dancing across it like glass. I stood there a long moment, toes at the edge, letting the waves reach me, pull back, then return again. Breakfast was a Cuban sandwich from a stand by the pier. Pressed bread, warm and crisp, dripping with melted cheese and roasted pork. I ate slowly, each bite reminding me how much better food tasted when it wasn't cooked under pressure or served to people who didn't say thank you. I sat at a plastic table sticky with salt and watched strangers smile at each other without hidden agendas. Later, I wandered through little shops along Collins Avenue. Bright dresses hung in doorways. Beads of jewelry glinted in sunlight. A woman sold coconuts from a cooler, chopping them open with a swift crack of her knife. I drank one cold, sweet, fresh juice running down my wrist. It felt messy, unplanned, perfect. But peace always feels fragile when you've lived in chaos too long. That afternoon, I finally checked my phone. Dozens of unread texts stacked like bricks. My sister's words came sharp, full of fury. You ruined everything. People are asking where you were. Everyone thinks you abandoned us. My mom's messages leaned heavy with guilt. The family is ashamed. How could you embarrass us like this? My dad's were blunt. Don't bother coming back. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, the phone glowing in my hand. For a second, the old weight pressed on my chest. The same words they always used, selfish, dramatic, ungrateful. They knew exactly how to hit the places that hurt. But when I looked up, the window was open. The curtains fluttered, and outside was a strip of ocean that didn't care about their words. The waves kept rolling, steady, endless, reminding me that the world didn't collapse just because I said no. I put the phone down. I slipped into sandals and went back outside. That evening, I sat on the sand as the sun dropped low, turning the sky from orange to pink to violet. Couples walked hand in hand. A little boy chased gulls, his laughter high and wild. I dug my toes into the sand and thought about all the years I had spent in kitchens, missing this, missing myself. The breeze cooled as the stars appeared, one by one. I breathed deep. For the first time, I realized peace wasn't just the absence of noise, it was choosing the noise you let in. Lying back, I whispered the word again. No, not bitter, not angry this time, just soft, almost like a prayer. No to the guilt. No to the endless lists. No to being invisible. Here, on this beach, under a sky full of stars, It sounded less like rebellion and more like freedom. The morning after that sunset, I woke up feeling lighter. Miami had wrapped me in its warmth, in its colors, in a rhythm that didn't demand anything from me. I padded barefoot across the cool tiles of the hotel room, brewed myself a small cup of coffee, and opened the balcony doors. The ocean was alive already, waves rolling, joggers passing, the sun bright against the water. I thought, maybe this is what it means to heal. Then my phone buzzed. Again and again. The vibrations stacked one after another until it wouldn't stop. I sighed, picked it up, and froze. My sister's Instagram story filled the screen. She had posted a picture of the empty Thanksgiving table back in Brooklyn. Plates half set, glasses unfilled, relatives sitting awkwardly, and written across it in bold white letters, "Thanks to my selfish sister Claire, dinner is canceled." Some people only care about themselves. My stomach dropped. Swipe, another post. A screenshot of a group text I hadn't answered. Her caption, "This is what family betrayal looks like." Swipe. A selfie of her with my mom, both red-eyed from crying. At least we still have each other. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. Notifications exploded, tags, comments, DMs. People I hadn't spoken to in years chiming in. Wait, Claire? Did you really ditch your family? Strangers adding their own judgments. Wow, imagine skipping Thanksgiving for the beach. Heat rose to my face. The ocean outside looked different now, mocking, too bright. I could almost hear the laughter from her followers, the whispers of mutual friends scrolling, shaking their heads. I slammed the phone down, pacing the room. My heart raced, throat dry. It wasn't enough that they'd tried to guilt me in private. Now my sister had dragged me into public, twisting the story into her version. The villain who abandoned everyone. I picked the phone back up. My hands shook as I typed. "Take it down. Simple, sharp." The typing dots appeared, then her reply lit up the screen. "Why? Afraid people know the truth?" Truth. The word tasted bitter. I typed again. "You lied. Tell them the whole story." Her reply was instant. "You said no. You walked away. That's all anyone needs to know." My chest tightened. She wasn't just twisting facts. She was erasing years of sacrifice. All the bills I'd covered, the meals I'd cooked, the times I'd held everything together, none of it mattered now. In her story, I was nothing but selfish, another buzz. Screenshots of her posts being reshared, comments piling up. Some were strangers laughing. Others were friends I thought knew better, silent or worse, agreeing. I sank onto the edge of the bed, phone glowing in my lap. I could almost hear my family back in Brooklyn, sitting around, nodding at her words. My mom probably wringing her hands, my dad shaking his head. None of them correcting her. None of them standing up for me. For a moment, I thought about deleting my accounts, disappearing completely, letting them win, letting their version of me take over. The idea pressed heavy on my chest. But then I remembered Miami's air, the salt, the sound of the waves, the way the stars had felt endless last night when I whispered no. I lifted the phone again and opened the posts once more. Staring at them, I felt something new rising. Not shame, not fear, anger. Clear, clean, steady anger, because betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people who claim to love you, the ones who smile in your face and cut you down the moment you say you won't serve them anymore. I scrolled through the comments again, my pulse steady now, and I whispered, "Not this time." I didn't reply to her, not yet. But I knew this wasn't over. The betrayal was loud, public, humiliating. But it also opened a door, a choice. I could stay silent, let their story spread until it buried me. Or I could tell mine. And for the first time, I wanted to speak. The posts didn't disappear, they multiplied. By the second day, my sister's story had been reshared dozens of times. Cousins who never called suddenly posted cryptic quotes about family loyalty. Old acquaintances liked her posts. Even a former coworker sent me a DM. Wow, didn't know you were like that. Like what? Selfish? Heartless? The words settled like dust on my skin. I could almost feel them each time I opened my phone. In Miami, the sun kept shining. The waves kept rolling. But inside the hotel room, shadows stretched longer. I scrolled and scrolled, eyes burning until my chest ached. Silence from my family was worse than the comments. Not one message defending me, not one correction, just absence. I tried to distract myself, walked down Collins Avenue, watched neon signs flicker to life at dusk, listened to street musicians play soft jazz on corners. I smiled politely, bought a cafecito from a food truck, let the sweet bitterness fill my mouth. For a few minutes, I pretended to be invisible in the best way, just another stranger in the city. But my phone buzzed again, a friend from high school. Hey, what really happened? Another, your sister says you ruined everything. Each message dragged me back, tethering me to a story I hadn't told. At night, lying in the crisp hotel sheets, memories surfaced uninvited. 12 years old, sweating in the kitchen while cousins ran outside with sparklers. My mother's voice. Don't complain, Claire. Family needs you. 20 years old, standing in line to pay the power bill with money from my part-time job. My father's shrug when I told him, you'll understand when you have kids, family sacrifices. 28, cooking 3 turkeys in a cramped oven, hands blistered, hearing my sister laugh with friends in the living room while she snapped selfies, invisible, always invisible. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning above me. The word selfish echoed again. It was the same word they used whenever I asked for help, whenever I dared to say I was tired. It wasn't new, but seeing it typed out by strangers made it heavier. By the third day, I stopped answering texts altogether. Some friends gave up. Others lingered, waiting for my side. But silence had its own gravity. It pulled me down, made me smaller. I walked the beach at dawn, the sand cool under my feet, seagulls crying above. Couples strolled by, laughing, pointing at shells. I felt like a ghost drifting between them, free yet lonely. Isolation isn't always about being alone. Sometimes it's about being surrounded by voices that refuse to hear you. On the 4th night, I sat on the balcony, phone in hand, scrolling through my sister's feed again. There she was, smiling with plates of food someone else had managed to put together. Her caption, it wasn't perfect, but at least we tried. Unlike some people, the comments stung worse than before. Good for you for stepping up. Some sisters just don't care. My chest burned. Tears blurred the screen. For a second, I thought of throwing the phone into the ocean. Let it sink. Let their voices fade into saltwater silence. But I didn't. Because beneath the ache, another feeling stirred. A question. Why was I letting them tell the story? Why was I letting their words be the only version? The loneliness sharpened into something else. A decision. If isolation was what they wanted for me, maybe it was the space I needed to find my voice. I set the phone down, wiped my eyes, and whispered into the night air. Not this time. The waves answered, steady and relentless. It started with a blank screen, a cursor blinking, almost impatient, waiting for me to speak. I sat at the tiny hotel desk, laptop open, hands hovering above the keys. For hours, I had scrolled through their words. My sister's posts, my family's silence, strangers' comments that didn't know me but felt free to define me. Now it was my turn. At first, nothing came. Just silence. My mind buzzed with all the years I had swallowed my truth, all the holidays I had worked until my back ached, All the times I let them call me selfish because it was easier than fighting. Then I typed. Not polished, not careful, just raw. This is my side of the story. I wrote about the lists with my name scribbled over every dish, about the nights when I paid bills with my own money while they pretended not to notice, about the hours in the kitchen while laughter floated from the living room, about the word selfish thrown at me like a weapon every time I dared to want something of my own. The words poured out, faster than I expected. My fingers flew. I didn't censor the anger, the exhaustion, the loneliness. I let them stand. For once, I didn't shrink my story down to make it easier for others to swallow. By midnight, I had pages. Too many for an Instagram caption, too heavy for a Facebook post. But then I remembered. People had been tagging me already, waiting for me to speak. My silence had been their permission to invent me. So I chose my words carefully. I cut, trimmed, shaped. I left enough detail to make the truth clear, but not so much it turned into venom. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. The post went live at 2 a.m. A photo of the ocean at dawn, waves stretching toward the horizon, and beneath it, for years, my role in this family has been invisible labor. Every holiday, I cooked alone while others celebrated. When I said no, it wasn't betrayal. It was survival. It was the first time I chose myself. If that makes me selfish, then maybe selfish isn't the worst thing to be. I hit share and closed the laptop before I could change my mind. The next morning, the notifications exploded. My phone lit up nonstop, buzzing across the nightstand. At first, I braced for the backlash. I expected more strangers piling on, more family members attacking. But it wasn't like that, not this time. The comments came from people I hadn't heard from in years. I know exactly what this feels like. You're not alone. I've been the family cook too. Dozens turned into hundreds. Women, men, even teenagers telling their own stories of being the one who carried everything while others sat back. The word that echoed most wasn't selfish. It was seen. For once, I wasn't invisible. My sister posted again, trying to double down. She's lying, she wrote. She's playing the victim. But the responses were different now. People asked questions. People pushed back. Some even unfollowed her. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about proving I was right. It was about finally standing in the light of my own words instead of being trapped in hers. That night, I walked along the shoreline, my phone tucked in my pocket, unread messages piling up. The ocean was loud, waves smashing against the sand, and I realized I didn't need to read every comment. I had already taken back what mattered, my voice. For years, I thought saying no would mean losing everything. Family, belonging, even love. But now I saw it clearly. The only thing I had lost was silence. And silence was never mine to keep. 2 days after I posted my side of the story, the silence from my family still weighed on me. My sister had tried to dismiss me online. My mom and dad hadn't reached out, at least not directly. I thought the bridge between us had burned completely, and maybe that was fine. Then my phone rang, a number I almost didn't recognize. For a moment I hovered, thumb frozen above the screen. Then I answered, "Claire?" It was Aunt Linda. Her voice was steady, not sharp like my mom's or mocking like my sister's. Linda had always been different, quieter, softer. She lived 2 states away, rarely visited, and often skipped the drama. I braced myself anyway. "I saw what happened," she said. "And I need you to know. I believe you." The words cracked something open inside me. For days, I had been holding the weight of everyone else's silence, convincing myself maybe I was selfish, maybe I was wrong. And then here was one voice cutting through, telling me I wasn't crazy. "I've been there," she continued. "You think you're part of the family, but really, you're the worker. They used to pile everything on me before your mom married your dad. And when I pushed back, they called me selfish too. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring out at the ocean. Her words sank deep, settling like stones. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" I asked. She sighed. "Because I didn't think anyone would listen." "But you, Claire, you said it out loud. You told the truth, and you told it where people could hear." The knot in my chest loosened. It wasn't just me. It had never just been me, Linda went on. She told me stories of holidays decades ago, how she had cooked entire meals, cleaned houses, paid for things out of her own pocket, all while being told she was lucky to even be included. She told me how she had quietly stepped back, moved further away, chosen peace over endless obligation. "They'll try to pull you back," she warned. "They always do, but don't let them make you feel guilty for saying no. That word is the only power you have sometimes." After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. The ocean roared beyond the balcony, steady, endless. I thought of Linda's voice, gentle but firm, and realized something important. Betrayal wasn't the whole story. There were allies, hidden in the shadows, people who knew the cost of silence. Later that night, I opened my messages again. Buried between the hate and the noise was another unexpected note. From my cousin, Ben. "I know everyone's piling on you. But honestly, I'm proud of you. I've seen how they treat you. It wasn't right. I didn't have the guts to say anything. You did." Tears stung my eyes. Two voices, two people breaking the wall of silence. It didn't erase the pain, but it shifted the weight. For the first time, I wasn't carrying it alone. I walked down to the beach, the sand cool beneath my feet, stars stretched wide above. Strangers laughed nearby, their joy spilling into the night. I stood by the waves and let them crash against my ankles, steady, relentless. And I thought, maybe that's what allies are. Not people who rescue you, not people who fight your battles for you, but people who remind you you're not crazy for fighting in the first place. When I returned to my room, I opened the laptop again. I typed another post, not angry this time, not defensive, just honest. Family isn't defined by who shares your blood. It's defined by who shows up when the world turns against you. Sometimes it's the quiet ones, the ones who've been through it too. To them, I see you, thank you. I hit share and closed the screen. This time, I didn't stay up refreshing notifications. I didn't care who commented or who didn't. I just lay back, listening to the hum of the AC and the waves outside, and felt something close to peace. Because I wasn't isolated anymore, I wasn't voiceless, I wasn't invisible, and maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone. The week in Miami moved like water, smooth and unhurried. Every day began with sunlight spilling across the sheets. Every night ended with the hush of waves sliding against the sand. I thought I had escaped only for a holiday, but the truth was, I had stepped into a new chapter. On the last morning, I walked the beach one more time. The tide had pulled back, leaving tiny shells glittering across the wet sand. Kids chased each other with plastic buckets. A man tossed a frisbee to his dog. It was ordinary, yet it felt extraordinary simply because it was mine. My moment, chosen by me, untouched by anyone else's demands. My phone buzzed in my pocket. This time I didn't flinch. I pulled it out, half expecting another sting from my sister, another guilt-laced text from my mom. Instead, it was a message from my dad, short, blunt. "Call me when you're back." I stared at it for a long time. No apology, no acknowledgement, just a demand disguised as an invitation. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and kept walking. When I finally returned home, the city felt colder, sharper. The apartment was exactly as I had left it, plants still alive, dishes stacked neatly. But something inside me had shifted. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was mine. The voicemails waited, of course. My mom's voice cracked with tears, calling me heartless. My sister raged, threatening to cut me out forever. My dad's tone stayed cold, warning me that family doesn't forgive betrayal. But mixed among them were the softer messages, the allies I hadn't expected. Aunt Linda again, reminding me she was proud. Cousin Ben promising to visit soon. Even a co-worker who had quietly sent, "Saw your post, respect," took courage. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, a cup of tea steaming in my hands, and thought about boundaries. For years, I hadn't had any. I had been the default caretaker, the invisible laborer, the easy yes. Saying no had cost me their approval, maybe even their closeness. But it had also given me something they could never take back, my own voice. The next day, I called my dad. His voice was clipped, expectant. "So, ready to come to your senses?" "No," I said, calm, steady. "I'm ready to set boundaries. I won't be cooking for 45 people again. I won't be treated like the help. If that means I'm cut off, then so be it." Silence stretched across the line. I imagined his jaw tightening, his fists clenching. Finally he muttered, "You've changed." "Yes," I said, "I have." I ended the call before he could reply. The weight lifted immediately. Weeks passed. The holidays came and went. My sister's feed filled with carefully curated photos, each one lacking the sparkle of years past. Friends whispered, relatives gossiped, but I didn't crumble. I baked a small pie for myself, lit a candle, and ate it alone in my apartment. It was quiet. It was simple. It was mine. And when I posted a picture, not of the food, but of myself smiling on my balcony, I captioned it, "Peace tastes better than tradition." The likes rolled in. Some from strangers, some from allies, some from people who quietly related but never said it out loud. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I had stopped living for their approval, because closure doesn't come from their apology. It doesn't come from them finally seeing your worth. Closure comes the moment you decide you're enough, with or without them. And as I sat there, tea warm in my hands, lights of the city blinking outside my window, I whispered the word that had changed everything. No, not bitter, not broken, just strong. And for the first time in years, I truly meant it.